My name is Maggie Malone, and this is my presentation on Peru. So, starting with Peru's origins, between 1400 and 1533, the Inca civilization flourished in ancient Peru. The empire's capital, Cusco, had a population of approximately 150,000 people at its peak. The civilization began to collapse in the middle years of the 16th century due to a multitude of weighing factors, such as an epidemic of European diseases, the growth of an internal rebellion, and foreign invasion. Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro would later be credited for conquering the Incas and establishing the city of Lima. So on the bottom left, the picture to the left, is a painting or a drawing of what Cusco was predicted to look like while it was thriving. And on the right side, it's a picture of the Spanish acquisition of Peru. Moving on to national symbols, Peru's national flower is the Cantua buxifolia. Excuse my pronunciation there, but the flower is considered to be sacred in Peru and is often used during ceremonies and rituals. Peru's national animal is the vicuña, and that's the ancestor of the domestic alpaca. Peru's national bird is the Andean cock of the rock. It's a fun name. The males of the species are characterized by bright red-orange necks, breasts, and shoulders with black wings. They're kind of a funny-looking bird. Peru's national dish is ceviche. It's typically served as an appetizer, and it's generally made from raw fresh fish or shrimp that's marinated in lemon and or lime citrus juices. Peru's national colors are red and white. These colors are featured on the Peruvian flag, which is shown above next to the slide title. The red symbolizes bloodshed, and the white represents peace and justice. Moving on to slide 3, wildlife and ecosystem. Peru is home to 84 of the 103 existing ecosystems and 28 of the 32 climates on the planet, making the country the most ecologically diverse in the world. It boasts over 1,800 species of birds, 500 species of mammals, and 300 species of reptiles. The extremely rich biodiversity stems from the range between the Andes Mountains to the Amazon rainforest to the beautiful coastal beaches. Peru is slightly smaller than Alaska, and that's about 7 times smaller than the U.S. as a whole for comparison, making these varying environments all the more impressive, like thinking about how many different ecosystems fit into that small space where we have America as a whole, and we don't seem to have that many varying ecosystems. It's crazy to think about. The pictures on the bottom from left to right are pictures of Peruvian mountains, the Peruvian jungle, and the Peruvian coastal beaches, which are all very different. Slide 4 is about Peruvian cuisine. The primary ingredients found in nearly every Peruvian dish are rice, potatoes, chicken, pork, and lamb. As a major fishing nation, fish are abundant as well. Chicken, pork, and lamb were introduced to Peru about 500 years ago. Other ingredients like potatoes were already being grown in the Andes and were taken back to Europe by the Spanish. Today, more than 200 varieties of potatoes can be found in the Lake Titicaca area of Peru. Many dishes in Peru are famous for being a tad adventurous, such as cuy al horno and alpaca. So the picture at the top right next to the slide title is a picture of cuy, which is guinea pig. And the one to the right of that is alpaca. The picture at the bottom is a picture of ceviche, which is the national dish as discussed earlier. Alright, let's talk about Peruvian music. During the colonial era, Peru became heavily influenced by European and later Afro-Peruvian music. Dance during colonial times in Peru had a strong Austrian influence with Flemish, Italian, and German influence as well. Attached to these styles of dance are different interpretations with African rhythms of early Creole music. The preferred instruments during this period were the guitars, organs, clavelins, harps, fiddles, harps again. I made a mistake there, my bad, and pianos. Peruvian towns along with the Andes have a variety of songs and dances. Today, cumbia, huayno, and salsa are the most listened to genres throughout Peru. Above, we have a picture of some of the most popular instruments in Peru during the colonial era in particular. At the bottom, I believe that's a cumbia group from Peru. All right, let's talk about textiles. Peru is the country with the longest tradition of textile production, going back over 10,000 years. The Wari were the predecessors to the Inca, who created vivid, abstract tapestries depicting deities and other cultural figures. The Incas inherited a long and highly developed tradition of textiles, as you can imagine. They dyed alpaca fur and wove it into specific patterns and shapes, representing the area and the family of the weaver, and to demonstrate wealth and nobility. In Peru today, contemporary designers are paying homage to the traditional textiles by using their techniques and patterns in their 21st century creations. Oh, sorry, forgot to explain. Below, we have a picture of Peruvian textiles. They are very colorful and have a lot of unique imagery upon them. All right, tourism in Peru. Peru is considered to be one of the best tourist attractions in South America. According to a Peruvian government study, the satisfaction rate for tourists after visiting Peru is 94%. Tourism is the most rapidly growing industry in Peru, growing at a rate of annually 25% over the past 5 years. Machu Picchu is one of the top tourism sites in Peru. In fact, a few days ago, I don't know if you heard, but this was on the news, Machu Picchu briefly reopened for one Japanese tourist who had been quarantined in Peru for 7 months. The tourist, Jesse Katayama, said, "I thought I would never make it to Machu Picchu as I was expecting it won't open within this year. But I was okay with it because I had a great time here." So there's a picture of him below holding the Japanese and Peruvian flag in Machu Picchu. Okay, Chapter 8, Afro-Peruvians. The country's Afro-Peruvian population is estimated to be around 3 million people. However, the last time a national census attempted to count Afro-Peruvians was in 1940. In the past decade, Black civil rights groups have been pushing the government to collect statistics, including the category of race. Their advocacy has gained ground in the 2017 census, included for the first time in decades the possibility for respondents to self-identify as Afro-descendant. Despite the fact that the minority group still has to fight against urban poverty and disproportionate cases of drug and alcohol uses, Afro-Peruvians have had a significant influence on modern Peruvian food, music, and culture, and dances as well. Okay, 9, weird animals. This one's a fun one. Peru's biodiversity allows for a wide array of very unique organisms, as you can imagine. The Andean cock of the rock is an example of this. It's also the national bird, as I mentioned earlier. It's brightly colored with a large feathery tuft on the front of its head. In some pictures, it looks like it doesn't have a beak, like the picture down below. Kind of a funny looking guy. The one next to it is the bald uakari. It's a small monkey with a short tail and a bright crimson face, a bald head, and a long coat. He kind of looks really angry. Other Peruvian animals that are kind of strange include glass frogs, potu birds, and bush dogs. And that's it. Thanks for listening to my presentation about Peru.